Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Delano D'Souza. On the show this week, we're dissecting the results from the world's largest election. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi back for a historic third term. However, things will be markedly different this time around as he finds himself with his wings clipped. Modi has been forced into a coalition, this after the BJP failed to win an absolute majority for the first time in a decade.
Let us all work together for the country. Let us prioritize national interest above all. Only then will we be able to achieve our goals. Our constitution is our guiding light.
Now, while Modi claimed a victory as the results became known, you'd never guess it if you were at the headquarters of the main opposition. Political parties who wanted to take on the BJP banded together under the India Alliance led by the Congress Party. Their combined vote share will mean Narendra Modi will be spending his next term in office constantly looking over his shoulder.
The main thing that this election has said, the country has unanimously and clearly stated, we do not want Mr. Narendra Modi and Mr. Amit Shah to be involved in the running of this country. We do not like the way they have run this country.
Joining me on set is social activist and lawyer Trisha Shetty. And from Providence, Rhode Island is Ashutosh Varshney. He is professor and director of the Saxena Center for Contemporary South Asia at Brown University. Thank you both for joining me here on the program today. Professor, let me start with you first. How different will this third term be for Narendra Modi, given that he's been forced into this coalition?
Yes, he will have to make several programmatic and ideological compromises. Right since his rise as the chief minister of the state of Gujarat, he's never run a coalition government. His party was always in the majority. So this is an entirely new chapter in his life. And no coalition can be run without give and take and without compromises. And that's the first time Mr. Modi will have to do that.
Trisha, this campaign was extremely divisive. India's Muslims were singled out by the Prime Minister a number of times. A risky tactic that cost the BJP its majority.
Cost the BJP its majority for the first time in over a decade, right? Let's quickly take a recap. In 2014, BJP won 282 seats, right? So in India, just to give context, you need 272 plus seats to have a majority where you don't need to form an alliance, if you may. But Indian politics historically has rested on the basis of pluralism. That's what makes Indian politics really interesting, right? You have to cooperate. You have to work with opposition leaders. 2019, he got an even further huge mandate, which was 303 seats. During 2019, we saw election was again run on extremely divisive grounds, right? This time, however, what we've seen is a complete difference. And the difference has come from the people. It's also really interesting to study what happened in UP. You're right. Whilst Prime Minister Modi chose to double down on his divisive rhetoric, on his hate rhetoric against Muslims, right, where he held an election rally in Rajasthan, the Banswara constituency, and said, watch out, if you vote for Congress, which is the largest opposition party, they will redistribute your wealth, your Mangal Sutra, which is a marker of marriage, and give it to those who are Ghuspetiyas, which is infiltrators, and those with many children. Common dog whistle terms used to denigrate the Muslim population in India. What did we see in the results? They lost the Rajasthan constituency. What did we see in Ayodhya? The grounds where the Babri Masjid was demolished in 1992, where the Ram Mandir was built in January 2024. They lost that too, to a Dalit representative from the Samajwadi Party. And just to quickly sum it, what was really interesting in what happened in UP, which is the largest state and contributes the largest member of parliaments to the government, is Samajwadi Party, which is the one that changed the game. What did they run the election on? The PDA alliance. They called it the Pichde, the Dalit, the Alpasankhayat, the Pichde, which means the backward, the Dalit, the historically oppressed, and the Alpasankhayat, the minorities, Muslims. And they gave 86% of the party's seats to minorities, and 86 of the Samajwadi Party representatives who've been elected to now serve belong to OBC, Dalit, Muslim backgrounds. So you can see the people have spoken and they've said no to hate politics.
Indeed, but I want to ask Professor Varshney that because you were on the ground in Uttar Pradesh while the vote was going on, do you get a sense that people don't want this type of divisive politics? And can the BJP put its Hindutva brand of politics on the back burner?
It will have to, but I think we should quickly add that while the Prime Minister was trying to push the Hindu-Muslim issue on the front burner, the response was not necessarily confined to defending Muslims, though it was that as well. The response, the most effective response, came from combining Muslim interests with the interests, as the previous speaker said, with the interests of the lower Hindu caste. So this new alliance that is emerging now, it has a previous history, but now it's emerging in a much more forceful way. The alliance of Muslims with India's lower castes under the banner of constitutional values. So Rahul Gandhi, in virtually every rally, had a copy of the Constitution in his hand, with Akhilesh Yadav, his alliance partner in the biggest state of UP, on his side. And the argument was made not on behalf of Muslims alone, but on behalf of Muslims as well as the lower caste. And it was pitched as justice, equality, pluralism, and economic inclusion. So the opposition reframed the argument, and that's how they countered the BJP and Mr. Modi.
Trisha, Modi's tone changed immediately once the results became known. In his victory speech, you must have watched it, he didn't use any polarizing language. Instead, he brought back one of his phrases, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, roughly translates to everybody's development with everybody's support. Do you think he's realized what he did was wrong and now will change?
Well, there were two things, right? He didn't say Jai Shri Ram, which he usually does, but he said Jai Jagannath. A little bit of nod to what happened in Odisha. It's the first time he thanked the NDA alliance. In the past, he's not. He's thanked the people for giving him an historic mandate. The thing is, at this point, the people have spoken. And if they still don't course correct and realize, based on the losses in Ayodhya, based on their loss in UP, based on the loss in Rajasthan, based on what happened in Maharashtra too, where despite two opposition parties being forced to change their party name, party symbol,
logo, yeah,
the people showed up and voted for the original Shiv Sena. You know, the original alliances that they had put their trust in. So yes, I think the BJP cadre is also realizing that they're running low on steam with the Hindu-Muslim divide and rule rhetoric.
Professor Varshney, how did the opposition manage to get its sort of teeth back, if you will, given that, as they said, they fought this campaign with one hand tied behind their back, and, we had the media that was skewed against them, all these things. How did they manage to do it, and what can we expect from them going forward?
So there's no doubt that there was pervasive fear at the time of the campaign. However, it was also clear from the last two long marches of Rahul Gandhi last year and this year that he had picked up mass discontent during those long marches, and knew what issues to focus on, and knew that if you kept persisting, people would respond and would, in any case, go out to vote. So the pervasive fear, the climate of fear didn't extend to voting as much as free expression. But once they had picked up what the issues were, they kept persisting with it, and they kept their focus very clear and very consistent in their campaign, and managed to get people out to vote and vote for them.
And it seems, Trisha, that the opposition managed to make this election about the issues that were on everybody's minds, things like inflation, jobs, what have you.
Well, we should take in mind that the Indian government signed schemes with Israel during war to send our workers to work there, right? We have lost workers in Ukraine who signed up to help the Russian army. Why? Because there's a severe problem of youth unemployment in India, according to the ILO, which the government has disputed. We have a huge poverty poverty problem based on Thomas
And we
Piketty.
have clandestine immigration to the United States as
Of
well.
course. And, if you also talk about the climate under which the opposition won, because this is important, right? Freedom House Index has said that under Modi's regime, anti-corruption investigation has quadrupled. And there's something we call the washing machine model, which is you are investigated as long as you belong to the opposition party. The second you switch parties and come to BJP, you're declared clean. That happened to 25 political leaders who switched parties, and now, they were declared clean. The Enforcement Directorate, 95% of the cases is selectively targeted towards the opposition party. The CBI, the Election Commission's inaction with taking into account Modi's very divisive election campaign that he did. So I think, definitely, moving forward, what we need to also focus on in the stock market manipulation, where our Prime Minister, our Home Minister, Finance Minister encouraged people to invest in the stock market, assuring them that it will go up once the election results come up, which by all means must be unethical. Moving forward, we must keep the pressure on CBI, Enforcement Directorate, the Election Commission, the press to do better by the people. And also, I would just want to say, we should call for the release of political prisoners.
I want to talk about this with Professor Varshney because Narendra Modi has this strongman image, if you will, under his watch. As Trisha mentioned, we've seen the chipping away of some of India's democratic freedoms. Now that he's in a coalition, is he a strongman still, or is he skating on thin ice?
Well, elections are the foundation of what happens during the 5 years between elections. So now that his power has been curbed and he has to function in a coalition, the results for freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religious practice, minority protection and safeguard, the results should be beneficial. The results should be positive on all of those scores. But for India's democracy to improve between elections, the 5 years between, it was important that he be delivered an electoral reverse, because ultimately elections are the foundation of how our democratic governments work, and what happens between elections will be determined by that.
Professor Varshney and Trisha Shetty, thank you both for joining me on the program today. And that's it for this edition of Access Asia. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.